Happy Monday, and welcome to another episode of Cases That Should Have Gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, but didn't. Today we're talking about hearsay evidence. Cases that should have gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, but didn't. In a case involving the possession of some unauthorized images on a computer, an individual was charged, and part of the evidence led at trial to show that he knew the content of those images and knew that that was unlawful content was the introduction of file names associated to the images. These were essentially used to show intention and to show knowledge of the contents of the images. There was an argument advanced at trial, which was ultimately unsuccessful, that the file names themselves constituted inadmissible hearsay. There was no evidence who named the files that. There was no evidence whether the file names were accurate or how those names came to be. And because there was nothing reliable about the provenance of that information, it was an out-of-court statement that was attempted to be admitted for the truth of its contents to prove a fact at trial, a classic definition of hearsay. The judge disagreed and admitted them not only under the principled exception to hearsay, but also in finding that they weren't hearsay and that the inference could be drawn that the file names were created by the individual who had named those files and who was charged, and he was aware of what the images contained. Ultimately, this case does raise a very important issue for the Supreme Court of Canada. With electronic transfers of data and information happening pretty much constantly between individuals all the time, file name creation is a significant issue. Sometimes you receive a document via airdrop or some other mechanism, for example, where the document is automatically named by your system. You don't have a responsibility for the naming of the document, and you don't even necessarily know what's in the document before you receive it simply because of the name. In addition, people can access other people's devices or computers and rename files either inadvertently or willingly, or because the images or items or data are shared on a different drive and people are creating a better organizational system within themselves. The more people that have access to a device or to a drive, the more likely it is that somebody else could come along and rename something in a way that impugns somebody else's ability to respond to a charge, and that's the concern with the hearsay issue here. I'm simply saying that because of the type of charge or because of the nature of the content of the images that were found on the computer, somebody is presumed to know what is in them and presumed to have intended to have that content on their computer is a stretch too far in the application of hearsay. And it's unfortunate the Supreme Court of Canada didn't take the opportunity to look into what is really a continually developing area of hearsay law in relation to electronic data. A lot of the electronic provisions of hearsay law that were drafted in Canada and that exist at common law are no longer in step with the way that electronic data is preserved, shared, saved, and transferred now. And unfortunately, because our law seems to be about a decade behind where technology is, we get these decisions that create significant implications for people in the use of hearsay in a way that shouldn't be done. Hopefully the Supreme Court of Canada takes the opportunity in another case to get ahead of where technology is going with our legal system so that people who are facing charges on the basis of technologically advanced arguments can have the right to make full answer and defense and not to be presumed to have done something because of antiquated and outdated rules of hearsay. Cases that should have gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, but didn't. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Cases That Should Have Gone to the Supreme Court of Canada, but didn't. I'm Kyla Lee at Acumen Law Corporation. Thank you to Brazenville Creative for putting together these videos. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends.